So the state of Virginia just banned firearms for those people who are under the age of 21. And one of the weird loopholes concerning this new piece of legislation is that if you are under the age of 21 at age 18, you're technically considered an adult in Virginia, meaning that you could potentially supervise somebody as a person who's younger, and which allows them to own a firearm by not being age 21. So you could have an 18-year-old supervising a 20-year-old, and now it's perfectly legal for that 20-year-old to possess that firearm and take it to things like the range or go hunting or whatever. How weird is that? I guess true ownership maybe is still blocked a little bit, but how fucking weird is that? What a stupid law. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and I think this opens up a broader discussion, which is why I wanted to have this here today, because it gives us a break from the Epstein files, which have been absolutely insane. I thought one of the biggest stories I've ever seen, which was not being talked about at all by the media, was recently Epstein actually had admitted back in 2009 to 2011 that his prostate was removed. He doesn't have a prostate. And yet the coroner's examination for this autopsy here states that he had an enlarged prostate. So it's like, wait a minute now. It's like, is that the same person? Because probably not. So with that said, let's get into the whole gun debate here. So one of the things I always found interesting was that in this country, and I know this was the case when I was growing up, you used to be able to smoke tobacco at age 18. You could have kids. You could go do whatever the fuck you want to do. You go to war. You go buy a house. Right. You can go get a job. Right. You can go get in generational debt. Like there's all different types of things that you can do at the age of 18. But yet if you want to have a cigarette these days, if you want to drink alcohol, then you're not allowed to, because the government says, fuck you, you're not old enough. You can do all those other things, but you're not old enough to make those decisions. And you're not old enough to own a firearm, as if 3 years somehow makes a difference. And I'm not discounting, age. I think age sometimes can be relatively correlated with wisdom, although believe me, I know a lot of stupid old people and I know some wise young people, and so not always. Obviously it's not causal. This is correlations, not causation, right? But isn't that weird enough, right? And I don't know why as a society, as the young folk, we tend to put up with that. And I'm not saying some things are a good decision, but when I am saying guns to me is one of those issues where it's like, all right, look, this is a personal liberty issue. And as the Second Amendment is, even though it's completely fucking outdated. Again, the reason the founding fathers, I know Noam Chomsky cites 3 reasons. I'm going to cite 5 reasons. The reasons that the founding fathers wanted guns was a few reasons. 1, to quell slave rebellions. 2, stop the Native American rebellions and encroach on their territorial land and take it over. And then 3, to fight off the British. I'll add in 2 more myself, unlike Noam Chomsky, and I'll say personal liberty, as well as the ability to hunt. And so that leaves 5 reasons. Well, 3 of those are completely irrelevant to this day, and 2 of those actually are relevant. Hunting is obviously a big sport in the United States, but it's not even just a sport. It's a way of life for many people in the United States. If you've ever been hunting, hunt a deer or something, you can get a lot of meat. Going to last you a very, very long time. And same with many different creatures that are out there, right? You got to get your meat somehow, right? And somebody's got to pull the trigger. Whether or not that's from an actual firearm or not is irrelevant. It's, somebody's killing the animal and you're going to eat that at your dinner table. So either it's yourself or it's somebody far away in some factory somewhere. This is what's going to happen unless the animal just dies of natural causes, which in that case, who knows if you even want to eat the meat at all. Maybe you do, I don't know, but pretty crazy stuff there. And then then we got the of course, and I think this is perhaps the most important reason, is personal liberty. Right, you have the right to potentially defend yourself in the event that you feel threatened for your life. And so, you can do what it takes to stop that threat. And now you can, protect the sanctity of your own body. And I think it's, to me, this transcends this whole idea of like, oh, yeah, we need this personal liberty because if, the government, wants to get corrupt. It's like, dude, if the government wanted you dead, it's like you would have already been dead. And, what are you going to have 1 million people go storm the White House? Like, congratulations, bro. Like, let's just start drone striking everybody. It's like you stand no chance. And so the idea that you could ever really overthrow a government in that sense, like we used to, I think just doesn't exist. It'd have to be such a wide-scale mass protest, and there would really have to be no holds bars there. I think you'd have to really just go absolutely apeshit. And we've seen back January 6th, like, hey, yo, guys, y'all got plans for the 6th coming up? It's like, dude, We've seen what happens when we raid the Capitol building. Absolutely nothing changes. Now, I'm not saying that things should have changed for the better, but I do feel somewhat of some sympathy towards the people who did try to rise up, and they say, hey, look, the government was corrupt. I mean, you had a president, a sitting president, nonetheless, say that the election was rigged and the election was stolen. And it's like, look, I almost feel like it's not even just your right, but almost your duty as an American to sort of say, look, enough's enough. We got to stand up to this, right? The sitting president just told us that the election's rigged. And it's like, well, we got to fucking do something about it, right? So I can kind of give them a pass. Now, obviously, it's pretty clear that they were wrong. But having said that, you can at least sympathize with them. And they had the balls to do what a lot of people don't, which is try to rise up against an authoritarian and fascistic government, which is clearly what we have in this country. It's very oligarchical in nature, and everybody knows it's oligarchical in nature. And if they don't know that, it's because they've been brainwashed by the oligarchs to not think that way. And so, like, you can sympathize with those people, even if they were in the wrong. But there's really no shot of you winning in a situation like that. The government's going to take you over, and you're completely cooked. There ain't nothing you're going to do about it. So really, it comes down to, all right, I'm on the street. Somebody's trying to mug me. Somebody's trying to take all of my personal belongings. Can I go and actually defend myself? And look, I had a friend, when I was younger, and I've told the story. I don't think I've told the story publicly, but he owned a gas station. The dad owned a gas station, right? Well, somebody goes to rob his store. They're armed, right? He shoots the guy. Guy falls down on the ground. The dad turns around to go make the phone call to the police. Robber gets up, shoots the guy in the back, kills him. It's like, that's crazy, right? But in a society whereby, and obviously he had a good heart, and he was probably trained improperly. Like, he should have just kept his eye on the attacker, disarmed him completely. There wouldn't this wouldn't have been an issue if they actually had probably the proper training or didn't panic under stress. With respects to their firearm usage, but. Regardless, I think it begs the point here. People in this country deserve that right to protect themselves, at least the ability to. Because if you don't have that right, criminals they're gonna have guns regardless, right? And so what? You would just want to be a sitting duck? You just want to wait to let it happen? Not me. Some people are, maybe. Not me though. I'm saying, look, I want to be protected. The only distinction I would make between the conservatives is that, look, I don't think anybody should be allowed to buy a firearm. In fact, I like to see it restricted, and I think every gun owner that I've ever spoke to wants common sense gun laws. But for some reason, a lot of the conservatives don't, which just blows my fucking mind. I think it's because they're so goddamn brainwashed. They don't know left from right, or they don't know up from down, and so. It's really weird when you get to talk to them on an individual basis. I've never met a gun owner who said, look, we shouldn't have universal background checks. Like, they don't necessarily want domestic abusers, getting their hands on firearms, because then it makes themselves look bad, right? And then all of a sudden the government tries to take away their guns. And I don't know, it's an interesting conversation. But if you are going to do something like this with firearms, then I think you got to do a couple of things. If you are going to raise the age, you got to do it for everybody across the country. Flat out. I don't necessarily think this should be a state issue. Two, maybe you could have something like a probationary type period, where maybe you're allowed to have a firearm, but then the second you commit any crime at all, it's it's automatically taken away, or you're placed on a suspension for X amount of time. We could start these programs very young too. So if you take the most antisocial students, for example, right, and you flag them in a database, and you got to do this across multiple years, and if you get flagged so many times, then maybe you're banned from owning a gun for a set period of time. Maybe that time goes up to 21 as opposed to 18, or maybe 25, right? But if you have a clean record until then, from any meaningful crime, not just running a red light, for example, or speeding, then maybe you can get that right back. So maybe there's a temporary suspension on that, and maybe that's a great thing, because teachers are very good at probing antisocial behavior. I mean, that was what my dissertation was on, and so I know the literature on this very, very well. Having said that, though, I don't think there's any easy solution, and every solution has its downsides. No doubt, 100% has its downsides. So somebody who is a concealed carry holder, who carries all the time, and absolutely loves the idea of that personal liberty, it's something that you got to do responsibly, and it's something that we as a society clearly need to re-examine, because this is one of the only countries in the world whereby we have constant mass shootings. And when you look at other foreign countries with respects to the modern world, I should say, the Western world. I'm not talking about, South Sudan or anything, right? I'm talking about the Western world. We have these issues that nobody else does. And a lot of it is a cultural issue, for sure, because there's other countries that have, just as many guns as we do, actually more guns than we do, and they don't have these problems. So, it is a cultural issue, but I think that culture starts stemming by, there are penalties for inappropriate usage of these firearms. And your behavior and how you uphold yourself as a citizen actually impacts your ability to have that privilege through the privilege and right through the United States government, because you can lose that right. And I think that's okay. And the courts have ruled on that a million different times. Just like DC versus Heller, for example. You are allowed to regulate things. You don't want an average citizen probably owning nuclear bombs, right? I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think you'll live without it, right? I think you'll be just fine. So I don't know. But with that said, guys, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. I like to post it from time to time, give my little 2 cents and spark some little debate going on. So with that said, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for some more content. And ladies and gentlemen, peace.